state to attract businesses and jobs. State government has responded by cutting taxes and reining in spending. We've restructured the relationship between government and business. Government now needs to be flexible, creative, and facilitate private sector success. The new model for New York State government is entrepreneurial. Step 1 in our economic development strategy: remove barriers to growth. In the new New York, state government realizes that New York has no future as the tax capital of the nation and must reduce burdensome regulations on business. Step 2, acknowledge the diversity of the many New York economies. Step 3, special investment opportunities. New York is actively seeking opportunities to invest in and support specialized markets and select areas. Yogurt, beer and wine, and nanotech are just some of the industries where state investments are paying off. Tourism is an area that has tremendous potential for the entire state of New York. Every region has distinct features to draw visitors from the state, the nation, and the world. The right investments can make a real difference in parts of the state eager for economic growth. Step 4, invest in New York's world-renowned higher education system. With the foundations for change in place, New York State is ready to enter Phase 2 of this transformation. The governor has impaneled the bipartisan Pataki-McCall Tax Commission to find further tax cuts to benefit businesses and families. The state is also increasing special investment opportunities in parts of the state that need greater attention. In the last legislative session, Governor Cuomo proposed and the legislature passed Startup New York, a revolutionary economic development program that creates tax-free entrepreneurial zones across upstate New York. Startup New York creates zero tax zones for new businesses for 10 years, zero property tax, zero corporate tax, zero business tax, and zero income tax. Businesses of every type will find space and locations to meet their individual needs and strategies. Options include rural, urban, and everything in between. From small spaces, 2,000 square feet, to vast expanses, up to 200,000 square feet. Whether your venture needs space for research, offices, manufacturing, or open land, all exist within Startup New York's portfolio. There's no fine print to interfere with businesses' operations. When it comes to taxes, the number to beat is zero, and no one can beat New York. The great state of New York already had unparalleled beauty and natural resources, a diverse and highly skilled workforce. Now add to this no taxes and a government that works, and New York State is ready to do business.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Ken Adams. I'm the President and CEO of Empire State Development and the Commissioner of the New York State Department of Economic Development. And I want to welcome you to an absolutely historic day for our great Empire State, the official launch of Startup New York. Before I jump into my brief remarks, let me extend some heartfelt welcomes to colleagues of ours that are here. First to Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy. Please, a round of applause. Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy, thanks for joining us. We're also joined by SUNY Chancellor Nancy Zimpher. Nancy, thank you. Key partner in this effort, to be sure, by Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. Assemblyman Brindisi, thank you very much for being here. And of course, Assemblyman David Buchwald came down from Westchester. Thank you to all our special guests. I'm going to introduce a couple of very special guests in a moment, but before, I want to give you a brief update on New York's economy and describe how New York State is really leading, helping to lead our nation's economic recovery. Under Governor Cuomo's leadership, New York State has had major gains in private sector employment. In fact, since the governor took office, New York employers have added more than 340,000 private sector jobs across the state, making New York only one of 9 states in the nation that's fully recovered the jobs lost as a result of the recession. So today we have 7.5 million people working in private sector jobs in New York State, which is an all-time high. And think about this. With a gross state product of $1.2 trillion, New York is the 13th largest economy in the world. The size and the diversity of New York's economy is really extraordinary. And while our state's economy is doing relatively well, we are always looking for ways to attract new business and create more private sector jobs in the state. And since 2011, we've launched many new economic development programs to incentivize doing business in New York. Initiatives like the Governor's Regional Economic Development Councils, the Excelsior Jobs Tax Credit Program, Small Business Revolving Loan Fund, and many more. And yet, today, here we are, raising the bar even higher. Startup New York is a groundbreaking new venture that will transform the way we conduct business in New York and attract new companies and jobs from across the nation and indeed around the globe. And it's great to be able to share this news with so many top business, civic, and elected leaders, as well as countless others who are here with us via the web. In fact, today's announcement is being streamed globally and is being covered by media outlets and reporters from around the world. I'm also very excited to welcome two new members to the Governor's Economic Development team. They're on the dais here with us this morning. The first, and I'm certain all of you in this room know him, is a finance industry legend who we are very happy that he's agreed to become the pro bono economic development advisor to the state of New York and a special advisor to the Board of Empire State Development. John Mack has had decades of financial services experience. As the former chairman and CEO of Morgan Stanley, he brings extensive expertise to these efforts. He's a great New Yorker, a great business leader, and we are extremely pleased that he's agreed to come on board and offer us his guidance. And you'll hear from John in a few moments. This morning, I'm also very happy to introduce Leslie Whatley, who's our new Executive Vice President for Startup New York, specifically recruited by the Governor to lead this incredible new initiative. And Leslie's known throughout the commercial real estate community in New York and beyond for her impressive accomplishments. Leslie most recently served as Global Head of Corporate Real Estate at Morgan Stanley, having previously held the same position at J.P. Morgan Chase and senior leadership positions prior to that in her career at General Motors. So please join me now in welcoming Leslie Whatley, who's going to explain how Startup New York is going to work. Leslie?
Thanks, Ken. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program and how it works. The essence of it, as everybody's told you, is no taxes. And the intent of it is to build upon the progress made by the Cuomo administration to create jobs and restore New York's competitive positions. When companies are looking for a place to do business, we want New York to be a logical choice and one of their first choices. The concept is take away the taxes and you lower the cost of doing business in New York. That's it. There's no fine print, no secret agendas. I've been doing corporate real estate for 30 years and I have never seen a program like this. No taxes means no taxes. The program begins January of 2014. Those that enter the program will have the opportunity to be tax-free for 10 years. The sales tax benefits will start the month they move in, and the income tax benefits start the year that they enter the program. And it will work. Sales tax is no sales tax locally or state. And there will be credits and there will be systems set up so that the income from the employees and the business are either deducted or refunded to them. The benefits to the business are profound. First and foremost, the economic benefits. Secondly, they're going to have access to the talent and the research and the labor pool and the economic ties to the community that the academic institutions have. And the sheer volume of universities in the state that they can associate with is a tremendous opportunity. To be eligible for the program, you must create net new jobs. This is not a retention program. We are going to be asking for job commitments to stay in the program. We're also going to put controls in place so that we don't have shirt changing. We want net new jobs. Companies currently in the incubator program qualify as well. Program is very ambitious. The governor would like to have up to 10,000 jobs per year added to the program, and we're going to try to develop 120 million square feet. That's the amount of square footage commercially in Philadelphia and San Francisco combined. So where can we do this? There's 3 different groups of academic institutions. We have SUNY, the state university system, we have CUNY, the city university system, and then we have the private academic institutions in the state. In Manhattan and the boroughs, the City of New York is going to designate one school for each borough, and those are City College at the moment, City College, the College of Staten Island, Medgar Evers in Brooklyn, York and Queens, and Bronx Community College. On Long Island, there's some SUNY locations, all excellent academic institutions. And then as you can see, the map of the institutions in New York is impressive. New York has one of the largest, actually the #2 academic system in the United States. The space that's going to be put into the program initially is the vacant space and vacant land that the institutions have. They're developing their plans right now to put it into the program, so the slides that I show you later are just examples. We are going to add to the inventory over time and also try to suit the needs of the businesses as they enter the program. Again, this is just a sample to show you the diversity. We have everything from land to lab space, to office space, to research space, and again, we're going to be looking for more. The type of affiliation that a company can have with the institution is very flexible. Anything from hiring employees to research grants to working in partnership on developing a product. This is where I get to make the statement I've always wanted to make. Hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But I really mean it. We have a bunch of...
Sorry.
We have the regional economic councils, we have ESDC, we have the state academic institutions. Your point of entry can be any one of those. We're going to get you into the system and determine what your space needs are, what your business needs are, what your academic needs are, and try to get you to the right institution. So there you have it. It's a tax-free environment. You have access to education. What could be better? So this is where I get to say, call me. We have the website set up. You can contact us through that. We will be setting up a call center to receive incoming phone calls. I'm going to set up regional programs around the state where we're going to roll the program out in more detail. But more importantly, if you would like to have private discussions about how the program could affect you, please let us know. We'd like to help. Now, I have the tremendous pleasure, I couldn't be prouder to introduce you to somebody that I greatly respect. He is the epitome of leadership and business strategy. I had the privilege of working with him for several years at Morgan Stanley, and I learned a tremendous amount. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. John Mack.
Thank you. Thanks. When she referred to business strategist, it's my ability to retire at the right time, given what's going on with the banks. So I think that's what you're referring to. When Governor Cuomo came to see me, 6 to 8 weeks ago, and said, I'd like you to get involved as an advisor and help us with economic development. And we talked back and forth, and then he said, John, you don't understand. We're really going to go out of our way to create and build jobs in New York. And when he laid out the no taxes, talked about the availability of the universities and how we can create centers of excellence around these universities and use them, it reminded me of about 10 years ago when I was at Credit Suisse, and we decided we could offload a great deal of our operational work to another area, and we chose not to go overseas. The Research Triangle in North Carolina, which was started in 1957 by Luther Hodges, was built specifically to take advantage of bringing new businesses into North Carolina tied to the university system. It started very small. You know what it is today. And one of the things that really helped us move our people down there and then start hiring people in the local area, the universities created class and majors in operational data, operational systems, and now I think Credit Suisse has close to 1,800 jobs that are in North Carolina. We can do that in New York. It's very interesting. As the governor and I spoke, two things hit me. Number one, he is dead serious about this, that he's committed to it. that he's pro-business, that he wants to create jobs and opportunities for this state. Number two, what struck me, and I see Kathy Weil here, I know we've talked a number of times about job creation. I happen to be on a couple of startup companies on the West Coast. One of them is growing at 8 to 9% a month. So I called the CEO, and I said, Renaud, if you could move part of your operation to New York, place it near a university, have tax exemption for 10 years, have other benefits for your employees, is that something you'd consider? And he said, well, John, you know, at some point we need an East Coast operations. This is definitely something I would consider. So the opportunity is for all of us to embrace the idea of bringing companies into New York. It's a negotiation. But the best thing about the negotiation is the guy sitting to my left. He's dead serious. He's convincing. When he first came to me, I kind of shuffled away. I said, you know, I'm not sure. I'm retired. I don't know if I want to do this. But the more Governor Cuomo talked about what he wants to do, the more excited I got. You know, we've heard a couple of comments about no taxes and low taxes. And not long ago, I was in South Carolina where they brought a number of foreign companies into South Carolina. But they do have taxes. I just want to read to you some of the tax rates where people have I think, the misperception that it's actually zero tax. It isn't. So here is zero sales tax. Massachusetts and Texas is 6.25%. In North Carolina, my old state, between 6 and 8% for income tax, 7% corporate income tax, and 4.75% for sales tax. Pennsylvania has a 10% corporate income tax. New York has 0. Florida, 5.5% corporate income tax, 6% sales tax. We're 0. One more example is Louisiana, between 2 and 6% on personal income tax and 4 to 8% on corporate tax. Look, we're not about tax avoidance. We're about building businesses. We're about getting people to think of New York as a place they need to relocate and build those businesses. I couldn't be any more pleased to work and try to help the governor and to have him, as they say, he's got my back. We can get a lot done, but more importantly, we need to have his back. And we need to make sure, as New Yorkers, we reach out across the country and internationally. This is not just, you know, an American thing. With the internet and communications the way there are opportunities for us to bring international cooperation to this state. And I think one of the things I want to focus on is that specifically. So with that, Governor, I want to thank you for the confidence you have in me. I want to thank you for what you're doing for New York State. And I want to introduce you to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. First, thank you all very much for taking the time to be here this morning. To John Mack, I can't tell you how excited I am that he is joining the team as both an economic advisor to the state of New York and to the Empire State Development Corporation. I've watched John for many, many years. I've watched him as governor. I've watched him as a New Yorker. I was the Attorney General before I was the governor, as many of the people in this room know. Not from any personal experience, mind you, but and I've watched the business community through all those capacities, and John Mack, I'm sure everyone in this room agrees, is a cut above. And he's been through the tough times, and he knows the markets, and he knows what makes businesses tick. To have that expertise working for the state of New York is really going to be extraordinary. Let's give him another round of applause, Mr. John Mack. Thank you. Leslie Watley, the same thing. I sat with Leslie. I talked to her about joining the state on this program. She said, I know nothing about government. And I said, that's a good thing. You're hired. Because this is not about how government works, right? It's how the business community works. And I know what government does. We need to make it work for business. And that's exactly what Leslie's about. She knows real estate. She knows real estate from the commercial perspective. And she's going to make this program work for business rather than making business figure out how to fit in a government context. So I can't thank her enough. We're excited to have her as part of the team. And Ken Adams on the Empire State Development Corporation, who's just been doing a great job. Overall, the ESDC has a lot of tools that they can bring to the table. So I hope you're all familiar with that. And let's give him a round of applause, Ken Adams. You heard it all. As governor of the state of New York, there's a lot of things this state has to do. There's a lot of good things that we can do and that we are doing. There's a lot of opportunities for us. And the state is moving in the right direction, and it's doing many things that are nationally and internationally getting us acclaim. Job one for governor of New York is to make the economy work. Why? Because if the economy is not running, if you're not producing jobs, you can't get to step two. We need the economy running. We need businesses doing well. If the businesses are doing well, that's 60% of the battle right there. Then we're generating tax revenues, then local governments are strong, people have opportunity, people have jobs. So it's all about the economy, and it's all about the private sector economy. And making it run, bringing it to New York, keeping it in New York, and growing it in New York. Now, over the past few years, that's been challenging. Why? First of all, the economy has been challenging overall. And second, it's been challenging to be a New York company over these past few years, because New York does not have the reputation, and in reality, it's a tough place to do business. It's an expensive place to do business. It's one of the most expensive places in the country to do business, and that's a problem. How did we get here? We had what I refer to as a hangover arrogance. We're New Yorkers. Of course business has to be in New York. What are they going to do, leave and go somewhere else? Our attitude was there was no place else that a serious business would go to. That was our swagger as New Yorkers. Yeah, but what happened over time is there are other places that can go, and we've been talking about mobility, and people will move and people will shop. And when you are one of the highest tax states in the nation, whether you're 47, 48, 49, 50, people will go to other places, and they have been going to other places, and they've been going to other places with a higher frequency. Okay, so we had to reverse the high-tax, anti-business reputation by actually changing the reality. And that we've done over the past 3 years. We have been cutting taxes in the state of New York every year for the past 3 years. Today, every person in this room pays a lower income tax rate than the day before I was elected. Every person in this room. And we're going to be doing more. The way we cut taxes, there's only two ways to cut taxes. You can either increase revenues, and because the revenues are increasing, you can actually cut taxes, or you have to cut expenses. We didn't have the luxury of the increasing revenues because, frankly, you guys aren't making enough money, so my percentage wasn't going up fast enough. Because the economy wasn't growing strong enough, we didn't have the revenues, we had to cut expenses. 3 years ago, state government spent about 10% more every year, starting on a $130 billion budget. Every local government was spending about 10% more every year. And by the way, we have over 10,000 governments in the state of New York. So we had this annual increase of 10%. Didn't matter what the inflation rate was, didn't matter what incomes were going up. Government was spending 10% more every year. We reversed that, and we made the 10% 2%. We have a 2% voluntary spending cap on the state side, then we passed a property tax cap on local governments at 2%. When we went from 10% more every year to 2% over 3 years, that gave us revenues to start actually cutting taxes. That's what we've done, that's what we'll continue to do. You saw in the video. We have a commission set up with former Governor George Pataki and former Controller Carl McCall. They're going to report to me in December for additional tax cut recommendations for next year. So those arrows will continue to point down. And we're communicating aggressively to business, give New York another look. It's a different New York than you thought we were. We are making progress, which is what I think business wants to know more than anything else and what people want to know. They want to know that someone gets it and the arrows are pointed in the right direction. The tax arrow in New York is pointed in the right direction. And the government is working, and it's working well, and it's working better than it has in decades. We now want to take the entire game to a new level, which is what? Well, we want to do something really aggressive on taxes, and we want to jumpstart the parts of the state that are not doing as well. When we talk about the state economy, we talk about it as if it's one. It's not one. It's different regions, it's downstate, it's upstate, and it's different pockets throughout the state. And some are doing extraordinarily well. Manhattan's doing extraordinarily well, New York City. Parts of the other state are not doing nearly as well. So, the parts of the state we want to jumpstart, we're going to focus intensive efforts in those areas. We're then going to get very aggressive on taxes, and that's Startup New York. Zero taxes in targeted zones. The zones are where we want intensive business development. That's the whole program. Zero taxes in the areas that we need it. Call them startup zones. There are 68 across the state. Then we link those areas with higher education facilities. Why? Because that's where the economy is moving. Wherever you talk about the economy moving, and every economic development conference comes down to the same thing, it's higher ed, it's the synergy with higher ed, it was Research Triangle, it's Silicon Valley, it's every hot regional economic development program in the country right now. So we take those geographic areas, we link them with schools, primarily the SUNY system. Chancellor Zimpher's here, State University of New York. They're all across upstate predominantly, but also private colleges, city colleges. We have some of the best private colleges in the world here in New York. So form the synergy with higher ed, target the geographic area, and zero taxes. Well, how can you do zero taxes? My calculus is this. It doesn't cost me anything because I didn't have those jobs in the first place. And as long as they are new jobs, I didn't have them, I'm not going to be collecting the revenue, but so what? I didn't have it anyway. I have a job. And that job brings a person, maybe a family, and they buy a house, and they go to the grocery store, and they buy a car, and that will run the economy. This has never been done in the state before. Best I know, it's never been done in the country before. I was in the Clinton administration. We ran a program called Empowerment Zones, which is some of the same concepts, targeted geographic areas. But this is everything I've seen before on steroids. And in truth, it takes that great liability of New York, the high taxes, and it eliminates it overnight. And John is exactly right. You know, you can't beat zero. That's the one number you can't beat. And I don't care what state you are, where you are, how low cost you are, you can't beat zero. It's property tax, it's sales tax, it's income tax for the employees and the owner. So there is no place less expensive on the map than these zones. And you're in the state of New York. You don't have to move to those other places. So you put those two things together, all the assets of this state, all the assets, plus a zero tax, none of the cost, it is a winning proposition by definition. Sometimes a proposition is so clear that you can't really debate it, and it doesn't even take a lot to explain it. It is self-evident. That's why I said to Leslie, this will sell itself. You just put out those two facts. Zero tax, state of New York, the rest is history, because by definition, it will write itself. And it will allow this state to do what it does best, which is just be the state of New York. You know, once you eliminate the liability, now you're going to let the assets rise. Now you're going to let our great higher education system, the best healthcare system on the planet, the most beautiful geography and topography you can imagine, the greatest collection, the most sophisticated urban area, the greatest beaches, the greatest mountain ranges, all in one place. You just let New York shine, you remove the liabilities that we imposed, and you're going to see this state take off. I genuinely believe it. It is an ambitious undertaking. We have the right talent. We have the right product. I think it's going to do well for the state. I think it's going to do well for the businesses in the state. I believe it will have an international appeal because there is no place on this planet like New York. You can't find that energy anywhere. You can't find that creativity. You can't find that entrepreneurial energy anywhere. And now we're going to have a market that's really going to take off. I want to thank John Mack once again. I want to thank Leslie Watley for joining the team and for endeavoring to help government, which is always a risky proposition. But if anyone can do it, they can do it. And once again, applaud the leadership of Ken Adams, and thank you for being here. Again.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much. Now, you know, we have, to close out the program, a special message about Startup New York from a special New Yorker. So let's take a look at that message. Thanks, everyone, for coming this morning.
New York is my state. Everyone knows it's the best place in the world to live. That's why millions of entrepreneurs chose to start their businesses here, even when taxes were high. You think that noodle guy was angry at you for years because you took too long to order? Get over yourself. He was pissed about his tax bill. Of course New Yorkers didn't think high taxes were great. What do you think we are? Stupid? You think we like paying taxes? We don't like paying for anything. We expect street vendors to sell us a silk scarf, a phone charger, and 20 pairs of socks for $5. And they do! That's why we sent this guy to Albany. We said, yo, Andrew, lower our taxes across the board or don't bother coming home. And he did. But he didn't stop there. He set up tax-free zones across the state where new businesses can operate tax-free for 10 years. 10 friggin' years! By the time you pay a penny of tax, I'll probably be dead. No sales tax, no property tax, no corporate tax, no nothing. It's like having your own Cayman Island right on the Hudson. That's why so many people are opening their businesses in New York. We've got science startups, bio-research, and nanotech, whatever the hell that is. They're starting wineries, breweries, distilleries, cideries. If you can grow it, someone in this state will turn it into booze. Because, thank God, New York was founded by businessmen, not Puritans. And it's why companies are relocating here from other states. Because not only does New York put extra cash in your pocket, we also have stuff worth spending it on. Hey, honey, what do you want to do this weekend? Horseback riding in the Catskills? Broadway show? Wine trail? Our governor believes no one should have to choose between paying high taxes and living in a godforsaken dump. New York State was already the greatest place on the planet to live. And now it's a great place to do business too. What is it with that stupid music, huh? Would it kill you to get some Alicia Keys? Jesus. I'm Louis Black, and I approve this message.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming.
Well done. Well done. Onward. Well done.